I'm Frank, and I'm all about helping business owners and entrepreneurs start and grow their lawn care business. Make sure to subscribe, like, and hit the bell button so you're notified of my future videos. What's going on, lawn care pros? So today I am here with Bobby. He's a lawn care professional and he is in the fertilization weed control side of the business. He doesn't do any kind of mowing or anything as far as maintenance. So he's strictly fertilization weed control. And here we are in Texas in the DFW area. And last week we had some really bad weather, especially for this part of the country. I believe your business was kind of shut down for 2-3 days. Tell us a little bit about that and how you guys handle things, and how does it feel to be back at work and ready to get things rolling?
Great. Well, for us, we don't get this issue with the weather very often. It's usually once a year, to be honest. So for us, we always are keeping an eye on what's going on in the weather every week, 7 to 10 days out, day to day, just so we kind of know how to adjust our applications. But for us, with the weather's being what it was and the safety of our employees, we just couldn't work for 3 days out in the field. I was able to go into the office on one of those days and get some office work done, contact some customers, let them know we're coming out for the next following day and things like that. But as far as our technicians being on the lawns, we weren't there for 3 days because pretty much they were covered in snow for 3 days. So that's really odd for us here in North Texas to get that much snow.
Yeah, for sure. And what was that, like a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or was that at the beginning of the week? Or
it was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay, so Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And on the Saturdays, you guys typically work on Saturdays, or is that once in a while? Or tell me how that scheduling works for that.
For us, we just do it every third Saturday, unless we're needing to make up. If we have a bad weather day, Monday through Friday, then we'll work that Saturday to make up for a bad weather day, just so we can we have a certain amount of production we want to try to get done every single week, both number of customers and square footage of lawns. So we kind of have a real good balance on what we use product wise and dollar wise on what we're doing in revenue. That's kind of how we base everything. And for us, typically on a normal cycle, we'll get a rain day here and there throughout the round, and then we'll just make it up on that Saturday. But every third Saturday we work like clockwork anyway, and it's it can kind of be an extra day. Sometimes we're touching lawns, sometimes we're doing service calls, sometimes we're saving it for new customers, and we're going to spend more time talking to that customer on those days. It might be maintenance of the vehicle, working on the warehouse, servicing equipment. It gets kind of used as a utility kind of day, just depending on where we're at in the round and how things are going with our applications.
That's great. And so last week, when the weather hit, right? Tell me a little bit about that. For our audience, if they're like in Michigan, they're going to be like, laughing at us, because here in Texas, when we get like 1 inch of snow and it turns into ice, the whole city just freaking shuts down. So tell us like a little bit about what happened and your experience as well. Like you live in like the Arlington, Texas area, and I know Arlington got hit a little bit worse than where we're located right now in the mid-cities in the Euless, Grapevine, Colleyville area. So tell me a little bit about your experience and the overall general experience of how the weather played out.
Well, we knew going into that Thursday, Friday that it was going to be below freezing those 2 days. So when it's below freezing, depending on the round, obviously we typically will do a spray application during that time. And when it's below freezing, you can't really do a spray application anyway, but there are ways around it with doing a granular. As long as it's just cold, not wet or snow, you can still kind of get out there and do those things. But with it being the snow and ice and the dangerous conditions on the streets, we knew we wouldn't be working those 2 days. So we ended up getting all the vehicles prepared for being down for 4 or 5 days in case the winter storm went longer. We had it set up to where we had the rest of the next week scheduled so we didn't have to kind of rush into the office and try to schedule a week. And we just didn't know kind of what we'd be ready for as far as electricity. I mean, our office could have been closed for a week with no power. Last year when we went through it, I personally had 5 days at my house that had no electricity. So we're kind of getting prepared for all those kind of things, making sure our employees were going to be safe and not need to get out, had contingencies. They understood like, hey, we're definitely not going to work Thursday, Friday, but if it's better, we might work Saturday. I'll contact you the day before to let you know when I made the decision either we're going to work or not going to work. So typically I try to let them know like around 4 o'clock for the next day. So at 4 o'clock on Friday, I knew it hadn't gotten warmed up enough to where we could do anything on the lawns on Saturday. So I told them we're just going to take Saturday off as well. It was our scheduled Saturday to work anyway. So we ended up missing that day and then got back to work on Monday.
So how was the weather as far as, the conditions, the roads and stuff like where you were?
Well, where I was, there were sheets of ice. Thursday was probably not quite as bad. It was a lot of snow. So, I did see a few people getting out and about. I kind of live real close to a major highway, a huge, probably the most popular mall in Arlington. I'm within about a mile of that. Very busy area where I'm at, and I didn't see hardly anybody out on the roads. It is kind of hilly where I'm at, but that Friday, everything froze solid at Thursday night going into Friday. And once we gone kind of 48 hours with no relief above freezing, everything was just sheets of ice. So it was really bad on that Friday. Probably one of the worst I've ever seen it. And actually on Friday when I was looking, the weather app had said we'd had 7 inches of winter mix. So it was snow and ice in Arlington, and kind of in the mid-cities, it was about 4 inches. So it's kind of all spread out. I know I have family kind of outside the Metroplex, and they had 11 inches. So there's a lot of just different pockets of where things were a little heavier than normal.
Yeah, and I'm from, I grew up in Kansas City, and I remember, the winters, it was like, snow. But here it was just like a wintry mix. So that's one of the problems that we run into here. It's basically sheets of ice, like you said, right? So
Absolutely.
So it's a little bit more challenging than, trying to, plow through snow or go through snow and that kind of thing. One of the things you mentioned is, last week whenever you're going into this, preparation for the wintry storms coming up, you mentioned, preparing the equipment. Tell me a little bit about that. What type of equipment are you talking about?
Well, for our equipment, we use spray rigs. We have GNC spray rigs. They're 200-gallon tanks that we use on all of our vehicles. So we had to prep them for sub-freezing weather. There's a whole list of things that you need to do to kind of get yourself prepared for that.
Okay, yeah, and I know you did a video for us that kind of shows, whenever we get into the freezing zone, and if it's not so cold, right? If it's not freezing, we did a video where it shows kind of the preparation. But when it goes into the freezing zone, 32 and below, we also did a video for that as far as how to prep and prepare and make sure the equipment, doesn't get damaged, right? Because you don't want the pipes and everything to freeze, and then when you go to start it up, you've got I think those are pistons, right?
Yes.
So there's other types of pumps out there that are diaphragm types of pumps. So same kind of scenario, you want to make sure that you've really prepped those things. And we did a video for that. So we'll put a link, if you're watching this on YouTube, we'll put a link also in the description so you can kind of check it out. If you're listening to this on the podcast, then obviously, just check it out on our YouTube channel and make sure that you're preparing for these kind of things. What other preparation did you have to do besides that?
Really just getting the vehicles ready. We have we put them in a place, park them in an area where we make sure that if somebody were driving down a road or in a parking lot, that we have a kind of a designated area that we park them to keep them from having any damage from anybody else being out driving around. And then with that, just making sure we stayed on top of, what's going on in our office, electricity. I have a Nest system so I can kind of check in to see that we have electricity at the office all throughout the time. And just, we'd like to disconnect the batteries on all the vehicles as well when they're going to sit for 4 to, you never know, it could have been a week. So, when we're going to be out for that long, we like to disconnect the battery so that it doesn't have any trickle down off the charge on the batteries, and everything's, set to go for the next time.
Great. And so the storm is over. Here it is on Monday. You know, we've made it through the storm of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and here it is Monday. So you started up all the equipment and everything. Any issues or?
No, everything, once we put all, the batteries back connected, take all the blankets and everything off that's covering everything, fill up everything with water and get the chemicals ready, and get everything, hooked back together. Started right up, everything started up nice and easy. Everything had pressure, guns all working the way they should. So everything was, easy peasy.
And that's a testament really to being prepared and getting, all the equipment winterized, right? That's a relief when you come in Monday and you're like, oh my God, is it going to start? Is it not going to start? Is it frozen? Did I, put the right, the coolant and stuff in there, and did that work and everything? But you've done that year over year, so you were pretty confident. But it's still kind of a relief, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That Monday morning that we started back, I was very nervous. Like, oh my gosh, I hope nothing's froze, nothing cracked. Hoses could break, clips can break. There's so many different functions and features of each little thing that could go wrong. I was just glad to see that nothing had froze up, nothing had cracked. Everything was, able to put back together, and we did a great job of getting it ready. And that, I think, definitely, you spend that extra time on the front end, and it pays dividends on the back end when you go back to use it. I mean, we do a lot of steps to make sure we're ready that probably a lot of people don't do, because they're like, it'll be fine. I don't want to take any chances. I want to make sure that everything is 100% buttoned up and as close to perfect as can be for when we go into those situations.
Absolutely. And just going back to last week, one of the things I forgot to ask, how cold did it get? Do you remember? I don't really. Did it get like 17 or?
I saw that we had winter weather up to 15 degrees, but it felt like as low as 7 with the wind, because we were running about from a 10 to 15 mile an hour wind most of the day on those days. And I kept looking, and you were seeing single digits with the wind factored in. So it was pretty cold for here in Texas.
And in Texas they say, if you don't like the weather, wait a few hours or a few days or whatever the saying goes, and it's going to change, right?
Right.
And interesting enough, I'm looking at the weather forecast for this week, and right now it's showing that it's 56 degrees, and the high for today is going to be 58 and the low 35. And just looking through the rest of the week, Tuesday 69, these are highs. Wednesday 68, Thursday 68, and Friday, oh my God, it's like 74 degrees. And I see no freezing the rest of the week. So we're kind of out of the woods as far as for this week goes, as far as, having to re-prep the, re-winterize the equipment, right?
Correct. Hopefully so.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're good.
So now, we've started back up. It's Monday. The guys are out, right? The guys are out in the field.
Mm-hmm.
They're back into production. How do you see kind of the rest of the week going? Are you guys doing granular? Are you guys doing spray? And what chemical or what kind of treatment are we putting down on this particular round?
Well, we just wrapped up our first round, and we're heading into our second round this week. Our second round is going to be a pre-emergent for all of our lawns. For us, we are doing granular today just because I wanted them to be able to get in, get everything loaded up, and get out into the field, just in case we had an issue with something, maybe we don't have pressure on a hose or, any kind of unforeseen issues with the rig. I just want them to go ahead and be prepped and be ready with a granular application, and then we'll just start tomorrow with spraying and start that second round. So it was kind of right at the tail end of our first round. So it was really good timing for us. I mean, better to do it at the, with just maybe a few customers left. We're basically one day off from being done with that first round. So we kind of didn't get too much of a setback. So it worked out really good for us. And the timing is right to put down pre-emergence, this time of year is we're getting into that time of the year for sure.
Yeah, and you're frequently going out into the field checking things, looking at the lawns and stuff. Are you seeing right now, with existing customers, obviously, are you seeing that the lawns are really clean? And what I mean by that, obviously, is, we're not seeing any kind of weeds, the grass is dormant, and, it's just kind of a brown, look to the lawn. but there's really not a lot of weeds popping up. Are you seeing that, or are you starting to see some weeds starting to pop up?
Well, to be honest, the lawns that are at the end of the season that went into dormancy that were what I'd consider very clean and solid lawns to begin with look very good during dormancy, and we're not seeing a lot of weeds. Any lawns that had, say, a thin area, had places where they had some damage in their lawn, whether it's they needed to put down some sod, or maybe under a tree where it's got some roots and it just doesn't have a good solid thick lawn in those areas. That's where you're seeing a little bit of weeds kind of in those patchy areas where the weeds are able to get germinated and come through. But for the most part, the lawns look pretty good coming out of dormancy right now. We've had a few new customers coming on. I typically try to do all the new customers the first visit so I can kind of get a good estimate on where their lawn's at, kind of what what kind of shape it's in. And those lawns, you can definitely tell they haven't had pre-emergence. They have, in the fall of last year, you can tell they didn't put pre-emergence down because they're covered in weeds right now. And it's very evident. I mean, it's like night and day. You go to one lawn, it's nothing, and look next door and it's just covered. So I can definitely attest that those pre-emergence work in the fall, and then using them again in the spring to help with the weeds later on in the summertime.
Now, did you say, are you seeing us getting out of dormancy right now, or are we in dormancy right now?
Yeah, we're in dormancy right now, but I'm saying coming out of that dormancy is coming up soon. Right now we're seeing, very few weeds in the lawns that we take care of. And like I said, it's the ones that have kind of that space in them where they don't have a good solid dormant lawn in that area. That's where you're seeing some weeds.
Okay.
But yeah, they're definitely not seeing any green coming out of, from Bermuda or St. Augustine right now, for sure.
Yeah, that's going to be more like end of March, kind of where we start seeing everything slowly come out of dormancy and then going into April, right?
Absolutely.
And we're going to continue this conversation with Bobby next time. I hope this information was helpful to you. Please make sure to subscribe, like, and hit the bell button so you're notified of my future videos. See you next time, lawn care pros.